Good evening, dear listener, and welcome back to Serene Slumber Tales. Tonight, we step softly into the hush of October, where the air is cool but never harsh, where lantern light glows patiently in windows, and where the world feels quieter than usual, as though it too is preparing to rest. Halloween is not a night of fright here. It is a night of warmth, memory, and golden candlelight flickering against old wooden floors polished smooth by time. It is a night where shadows feel friendly, where silence feels like a companion rather than an absence. So settle in now. Let your breathing slow. Let your shoulders rest. Allow the small furrows of the day to smooth themselves away. There is nowhere you need to be but here. Nowhere you are expected to go. This hour belongs only to stillness and to you. Outside, leaves drift lazily along cobbled streets, tumbling over one another in unhurried spirals. They gather in quiet corners, brushed there by a patient breeze that carries the faint scent of wood smoke and distant orchards. Pumpkins sit proudly on porches, their carved smiles glowing gently in the dark. Little lanterns of harvest light. Their candles flicker, but do not falter, casting soft halos across doorsteps and garden paths. Somewhere in the distance, wind moves through trees with a low, whispering sigh, like pages turning in a well-loved book. This is not a stormy night. It is not a night of sudden sounds or restless skies. It is a peaceful autumn evening, wrapped in soft amber light, as comforting as a familiar melody played quietly on a piano in another room. Imagine the sky above, deep indigo, brushed with silver stars that seem brighter now that summer's haze has faded. The moon hangs round and luminous, not sharp, but gentle in its glow. It watches over rooftops and chimneys, over winding lanes and sleeping gardens. Curtains sway slightly in open windows. Somewhere a porch swing rocks once, then stills. Even the night creatures move calmly, without urgency. The world feels held, as though cupped in careful hands. As we begin, picture yourself seated beside a small hearth. The fire crackles softly, not in loud bursts, but in quiet murmurs, embers glowing like tiny constellations among the logs. A kettle hums faintly in the background, its warmth steady and reassuring. Perhaps you can hear the smallest rattle of its lid, a gentle reminder that heat and comfort are close at hand. A wool blanket rests across your lap, heavy enough to soothe, light enough to feel like a soft embrace. Its fibers carry the faint scent of lavender from summers past, and of clean air dried beneath an open sky. The room around you is simple and warm. Shelves lined with old books rise against the walls, their spines faded in shades of burgundy, forest green, and midnight blue. The scent of cinnamon and old paper lingers in the air, mingling with the quiet fragrance of tea leaves waiting to be steeped. A small clock ticks somewhere, its rhythm unhurried, marking time without demanding attention. The light here is low and golden, coming not from bright bulbs, but from shaded lamps and the hearth's glow. It softens the edges of everything it touches. You are safe in this space. The day's worries have been set gently outside the door, like shoes left neatly on the mat. They will remain there until morning. For now, there is no need to solve, to plan, or to prepare. There is only the steady rise and fall of your breathing, the quiet companionship of the fire, and the promise of stories told in a voice that never rushes. Tonight's journey will unfold slowly, first through classic tales told gently, their sharper corners smoothed by kindness. We will wander through old villages and quiet countryside lanes, where lanterns glow and footsteps echo softly on stone. Then we will drift into ancient lore and folklore, where traditions are remembered not as warnings, but as lullabies passed from one generation to the next. The spirits we meet will not startle. They will simply watch from a respectful distance, woven from memory and moonlight. From there, we will step into a cozy fantasy adventure, the kind where courage feels warm rather than urgent. A small cottage at the edge of a forest, a traveler with a kind smile, a path lit by floating lanterns that hover just above the grass. Nothing will hurry you forward. The world will unfold at a walking pace, allowing your thoughts to meander alongside it. And finally, we will wander into mythic lands rich with soft mystery, places where mountains rise like sleeping giants beneath starlit skies, where ancient libraries hum with quiet magic, and where rivers reflect constellations so clearly that it becomes difficult to tell where earth ends and heaven begins. In these lands, questions are not meant to be answered immediately. They are meant to be carried gently, like smooth stones in a pocket, warming slowly with time. Each story is meant not to excite you, but to cradle your thoughts, to give them somewhere safe to wander until sleep arrives quietly and without effort. If your mind drifts, let it drift. If an image fades, let it fade. There is no need to hold tightly to anything you hear. The purpose of this evening is not to remember every word, but to feel the steady calm beneath them. Notice now how the firelight dances softly against the walls. Notice how the kettle's hum seems almost like a lullaby. Perhaps you shift slightly in your seat, settling deeper beneath the blanket. Perhaps your eyelids already feel a little heavier, your breath a little slower than before. That is perfectly as it should be. Take a slow breath in. Feel the coolness of October's air as it fills your lungs, gentle and clean, and let it drift out again, carrying with it the remnants of the day. Another breath in and out. With each exhale, imagine yourself sinking a little further into comfort, like a leaf settling onto still water. The night is patient, the stories are patient, and you, dear listener, need only listen for as long as you wish. We begin. The first tale opens in a quiet village at the edge of a harvest field, where twilight lingers just a little longer than usual, as though reluctant to surrender the day. The last light of the sun stretches thin and golden across rows of gathered wheat, illuminating the stubbled earth with a soft farewell glow. Beyond the fields, low stone cottages nestle together, their chimneys breathing faint ribbons of smoke into the cooling sky. The townsfolk prepare for the turning of the season in unhurried rhythm. Lanterns hang from low wooden beams, their glass panes warmed by candle flame. They sway ever so slightly in the evening breeze, casting gentle arcs of light across doorways and worn thresholds. Children move softly from door to door, not in haste, not with clamor, but in gentle celebration. Their laughter is hushed and melodic, like wind chimes stirred by a careful hand. Small baskets rest in the crook of their arms, lined with cloth and filled not only with sweets, but with apples polished to a shine and little bundles of dried herbs tied with twine. In this village, there is an old clock tower that rises above the square, its stone face softened by ivy and time. During the year, it stands quietly, marking the hours as any clock would. But on Halloween night, it chimes only once. The townspeople know this, and they listen for it, not with apprehension, but with reverence. The story says it marks the hour when the veil between worlds grows thin, not in danger, not in dread, but in remembrance. For this is not a tale of fear. It is a tale of reflection, of memory, of ancestors who walked these same cobbled paths long ago, whose footsteps once echoed against these same stones. When the single chime rolls out across the rooftops, it does not startle. It resonates low and clear, like a bell rung in gratitude. Windows are opened slightly. Candles are placed carefully on sills. Names are whispered with fondness, not sorrow. As we read, the rhythm remains slow and even. Each sentence flows into the next like a quiet stream moving over smooth stones, unbroken and unhurried. There are no sudden turns, no sharp shadows stretching unexpectedly across the page. Only soft imagery, moonlight resting on rooftops like a silken shawl, the glow of candles in frosted windows, the distant call of an owl echoing calmly across open fields. Even the owl's voice feels rounded and low, blending into the hush rather than piercing it. The harvest field itself seems to breathe beneath the moon, its earth rich and dark, its work complete for the season. In this first classic, time feels layered. The present and the past sit side by side like old friends sharing a bench. We linger there a while, letting the atmosphere settle. The lantern light flickers gently in our imagination. The children's soft footsteps fade as they return home. The single chime from the tower dissolves into silence once more. Nothing presses forward. Nothing demands attention. The story simply rests in the mind, warm and steady. The second classic brings us into a quiet manor house set back from a winding country road. A gravel path curves toward tall oak doors, and autumn rain taps gently against long windows framed by climbing ivy. The rain is steady but light, a soft percussion that accompanies the evening rather than interrupting it. Inside, a family gathers near the fire to share old stories passed down through generations. The hearth glows with deep orange embers, and above it hangs a mantle lined with small heirlooms. A brass candlestick polished by many hands. A faded photograph in an oval frame. A small carved wooden bird whose wings have been smoothed by touch. The youngest among them listens wide-eyed, not in fear, but in fascination. Their chin rests in their palms, elbows balanced carefully on their knees. The elders speak in calm, measured tones, their voices carrying the gentle cadence of repetition. They tell of friendly spirits who guide travelers home when fog settles too thick upon the moors. They tell of ancient harvest feasts where long tables were set beneath open skies, and neighbors shared bread still warm from the oven. They speak of traditions rooted in gratitude rather than superstition, of lighting candles to honor the year's blessings, of setting aside a chair at the table in quiet acknowledgement of those who came before. The rain continues its soft rhythm against the windows, tracing delicate paths down the glass. Occasionally, a log in the hearth settles with a quiet sigh, sending a small swirl of sparks upward before they disappear. The room smells faintly of clove and cedarwood. A kettle rests nearby, releasing the subtlest whisper of steam. The atmosphere within the manor feels cocooned, insulated from the world beyond its thick stone walls. Outside, the fields may be damp and silvered with mist, but inside, warmth gathers in steady layers. As each paragraph unfolds, the tone remains even and soothing. The cadence never rises too high. Words repeat softly, like a refrain woven through fabric. Warm light, drifting leaves, soft footsteps, candle glow, steady breathing. Repetition here is comfort. Familiarity is rest. The phrases return again and again, not as echoes of monotony, but as anchors for the wandering mind. With every repetition, the body relaxes further, recognizing the pattern, trusting it. The family's stories draw to a gentle pause, not with a dramatic conclusion, but with a shared silence. The youngest leans against a parent's shoulder. A shawl is drawn closer around tired shoulders. One by one, candles are dimmed slightly, their flames lowered, but not extinguished. The rain outside softens to a mere whisper, as though it too grows drowsy. And as the final classic closes, the last line lingers gently in the air, like the fading glow of a lantern being turned low. It does not vanish abruptly. It glows for a moment longer, amber and tender, before settling into memory. The clock in the hallway marks the hour with a muted tick. The fire settles into embers. The manor grows quiet. We sit with that quiet for a while. Warm light, drifting leaves, soft footsteps, candle glow, steady breathing. The classics have been read not to awaken the mind but to ease it. Their pages close softly, like hands folding together in rest. And in the hush that follows, the night feels deeper, kinder, ready to carry us gently onward. Now we drift deeper, not into darkness, but into history. Not into something sharp or unsettling, but into something older and steadier, like the roots of an ancient tree resting quietly beneath the soil. Long before carved pumpkins and cozy sweaters, before glowing porch lights and neatly wrapped sweets, there were harvest festivals marking the end of summer and the beginning of rest. In ancient lands, communities gathered at the edge of the season to honor the turning year, understanding that life moved in circles rather than straight lines. They felt the rhythm of growth and harvest, of light and dark, of work and restoration. And when the fields had given their abundance, people paused, not in exhaustion alone, but in gratitude. In the lands we now call Ireland and Scotland, among the ancient Celts, there was a festival known as Samhain. It marked the threshold between the lighter half of the year and the darker half, a gentle doorway rather than a dividing line. Fires were lit upon hilltops, their flames rising steadily into crisp autumn air. These bonfires were not built to ward off terror, but to welcome warmth against the coming cold. They were gathering places, points of light around which stories could be told and songs could be sung. The air would have smelled of smoke and grain, of earth recently turned, of wool cloaks warmed by flame. Cloaks wrapped snugly around shoulders, hands extended toward heat, voices low and thoughtful. Offerings were left not in fear, but in respect for those who came before. A portion of bread set aside, a cup of cider poured gently upon the ground. These gestures were acknowledgements, quiet recognitions that life is layered, that the present rests upon the foundations of the past. The idea of the veil thinning was never meant to disturb. It was a poetic way of saying that memory grows stronger at certain times of year. When the nights lengthen and the wind carries fallen leaves across quiet paths, when the sky darkens earlier and the stars appear brighter, we naturally turn inward. We remember, we reflect, we feel closer to those whose footsteps once echoed where ours now fall. As centuries passed, traditions traveled and transformed. In time, the observance of All Hallows' Eve emerged alongside older customs, blending reverence with ritual. In medieval towns across England and beyond, church bells would toll softly, not as alarms, but as invitations to contemplation. Candles were placed in windows to symbolize hope and remembrance. The tone remained gentle, even as cultures intertwined and language shifted. Pumpkins themselves began not as bright orange symbols, but as humble lanterns carved from root vegetables, turnips most often, hollowed carefully and lit from within. In rural villages across Ireland, small flickering lights would glow along narrow lanes, guiding travellers home through dark countryside roads. These early lanterns were practical and poetic all at once. Light against shadow, warmth against chill, direction against uncertainty. When immigrants later carried these customs across the ocean to United States, they found pumpkins more plentiful and easier to carve. The tradition shifted shape, becoming rounder, brighter, softer in appearance. Over time, carved faces grew friendlier. Celebrations brightened. The warmth remained. Imagine walking through a small village centuries ago. The path beneath your feet is earthen and firm, scattered with fallen leaves that rustle gently with each step. Lanterns line the narrow way, their light golden and low. A harvest table stretches beneath a wooden awning, its surface laden with loaves of crusty bread, bowls of roasted vegetables, wheels of cheese wrapped in cloth. Steam rises faintly from a pot of stew. Bread is broken and passed from hand to hand. Stories are exchanged in low voices, not hurried, not dramatic, but steady and familiar. Elders speak of seasons long past, of years when the harvest was abundant, of years when patience was required. Children doze beside them, heads resting against woolen sleeves, comforted by the cadence of adult voices blending with the soft crackle of embers. Above, the sky is vast and ink blue. Stars scatter themselves generously across its surface. Somewhere beyond the circle of firelight, fields lie quiet and resting, their work complete. The wind moves lightly through stubble and hedgerow, carrying with it the scent of wood smoke and distant frost. No one rushes to leave. No one watches the hour too closely. The gathering itself is the purpose. The rhythm of history is calm, cyclical, gentle. Festivals come and go. Generations rise and rest. Customs shift, soften, brighten. Yet beneath every transformation lies the same steady heartbeat. Gratitude for what has been given. Remembrance of what has passed. Hope for what will come. The harvest gives way to winter. Winter yields to spring. The circle continues, unbroken. Even now, when Halloween arrives dressed in costumes and glowing with porch lights, its quieter roots remain beneath the surface. When we light a candle in a carved pumpkin, we echo those ancient hilltop fires. When we pause to remember someone we have loved, we echo those early offerings left in respect. When we gather with family and friends as nights grow longer, we echo those harvest tables beneath wooden awnings. Nothing in this history demands urgency. Nothing insists upon fear. It is simply the story of people noticing the seasons turn and choosing to mark it with light. Choosing to gather rather than scatter. Choosing warmth. And as you rest here listening, notice how the rhythm of these traditions mirrors your own breathing. Inhale slowly, like the drawing in of autumn air, cool and clear. Exhale, like a candle's steady glow settling into stillness. Inhale, the memory of bonfires upon distant hills. Exhale, the soft flicker of lanterns along a country lane. The year turns, the fire glows. The past and present sit side by side, not as strangers, but as companions. Inhale slowly and exhale. Now, dear listener, we shift into something playful and warm. A soft fantasy adventure told as though you are the traveler. Not a warrior, not a chosen one, just a wanderer with steady steps and a curious heart. The kind of traveler who notices the color of the sky before nightfall and pauses to listen when wind moves through branches. Tonight, the world opens gently before you, like a well-loved book turning to its next chapter without haste. You find yourself arriving at a forest inn just as twilight settles over tall silver trees. Their trunks rise pale and smooth, catching the last traces of evening light, while their leaves shimmer faintly overhead like brushed metal touched by moonbeams. A wooden sign swings lightly in the breeze, suspended by iron chains that creak in a slow, familiar rhythm. The carved letters read, "The Lantern Hollow." A small painted lantern glows beside the name, its golden hue warm against the deepening blue of the sky. The inn itself is built from sturdy stone and dark timber, its windows glowing with steady amber light. Smoke curls lazily from a broad chimney carrying the scent of cedarwood and something savory simmering within. As you step closer, gravel crunches softly beneath your boots. The door opens before you can lift your hand to knock. Inside, firelight dances across stone walls, casting shifting patterns that feel almost like living murals. Wooden beams stretch overhead, polished by years of quiet evenings and shared stories. A kindly innkeeper greets you with a knowing smile, as though he has been expecting you, not in prophecy, but in hospitality. His eyes are gentle, reflecting the hearth's glow, and he gestures toward a seat near the fire without asking questions. A woven rug softens the floor beneath your feet. The air smells of rosemary, baked bread, and autumn apples. You are not a hero tonight. There is no battle waiting beyond the door, no looming shadow at the edge of the map. Only a small quest of curiosity, offered as lightly as a cup of tea. As you settle into your chair, warmth easing into your shoulders, a local villager approaches your table. Their cloak is moss green, fastened with a simple wooden clasp. They lean closer and whisper, not urgently but thoughtfully, that glowing lights have been seen drifting gently through the nearby meadow. Not menacing lights, but curious ones. Soft blue orbs that hum like distant lullabies carried on evening wind. The villagers are not afraid, merely intrigued, and perhaps, they suggest with a faint smile, a traveller might wish to see such a thing. You agree to walk into the meadow at moonrise. There is no dramatic departure. You finish your warm drink. You thank the innkeeper, who nods once more, as though the night is unfolding exactly as it should. When you step outside, the forest greets you with calm. The moon has risen, round and luminous, casting silver light across the clearing. The path before you is narrow but clear, lined with tall grasses shimmering softly as they sway. Your boots press quietly into the earth. Each step is steady. The forest does not loom. It breathes, calm, ancient, protective. Branches arch overhead like a cathedral ceiling woven from leaves. Crickets hum in low harmony. Somewhere deeper within the woods, an owl calls once, its voice smooth and unhurried. As you walk, you notice how the air feels cooler here, yet not cold. It brushes against your cheeks like a gentle reminder of the seasons turning. The scent of damp soil and late-blooming wildflowers drifts upward with every step. The meadow opens gradually before you, tall grasses parting to reveal a wide open space bathed in moonlight. And then you see them. Small floating lights hover above clusters of wildflowers, their glow a soft shade of blue, not bright, not blinding, but luminous in a way that feels almost like breathing. They drift lazily, rising and falling as though carried by invisible currents. As you approach, they do not scatter. They do not flicker in alarm. Instead, they circle you slowly, warmly, as if welcoming you into their quiet dance. You pause at the edge of the meadow, allowing them to come closer. Their hum is faint, melodic, like the echo of a lullaby remembered from childhood. The sound does not fill the air, it rests within it. You realize, with a calm certainty, that these are harmless spirits of autumn, guardians of harvest fields, keepers of seasonal change. They are not bound to frighten or to warn. They exist simply to tend the invisible threads between summer's abundance and winter's rest. One light drifts closer than the others. It hovers before you for a moment, as though considering. Then it settles gently in your open palm. It feels warm, peaceful, like holding a memory you had almost forgotten. A memory of golden afternoons, of laughter carried across open fields, of hands brushing through tall grass. The glow pulses softly against your skin, steady as a heartbeat. You breathe in slowly, and the cool night air fills your lungs. You breathe out, and the small orb brightens for just a moment, as though responding to your calm. There is no urgency here, no ticking clock, no hidden danger waiting in shadow, just wonder, quiet and whole. You stand there for a long moment, surrounded by drifting blue light. The meadow seems suspended in time, held between breaths. Above you, stars scatter themselves generously across the sky. Around you, the lights continue their gentle orbit, brushing against wildflowers and tall stems without bending them. Eventually, the small orb lifts from your palm. It rejoins the others without farewell, though you sense gratitude in its motion. The meadow remains luminous for a few breaths more before the lights begin to drift farther into the field, settling once again among the grasses. When you return to the inn, your steps feel lighter. The forest path seems shorter now, more familiar. The trees whisper softly as you pass, their leaves shimmering faintly in approval. The lantern hollow glows ahead, steady and welcoming. Inside, the innkeeper looks up as you enter. He nods, just once, as though he already knew what you would find. No explanation is required. A bowl of warm stew waits for you beside the fire, steam curling gently upward. You sit, cradling the bowl in your hands, and feel warmth seep into your palms. Outside, the meadow returns to stillness. The blue lights continue their quiet vigil beneath the moon. The forest breathes, the night settles deeper, and you feel lighter, not because you have conquered anything, not because you have solved a riddle or won a prize, but because you have witnessed something gentle and allowed it to remain gentle. The fire crackles softly, the stew is warm, your breathing is steady, and the adventure, small and luminous, rests peacefully within you. For our final journey, we wander into ancient lands of myth, rolling hills brushed with silver mist, mountains rising in patient silhouettes against a velvet sky, and forests older than memory itself. These are not lands shaped by haste or hardened by conflict. They are places where stories settle slowly into the earth, where legends are not sharp or violent but slow and vast, like deep rivers flowing beneath starlight. The air here feels different, cooler, quieter, carrying the faint scent of moss and distant rain. Even your breathing seems to match the rhythm of the realm as you step gently forward. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet forest in a world untouched by time. The trees are tall beyond measure, their trunks wide and steady, bark textured like pages written in a language only the wind can read. Their leaves shimmer faintly beneath a silver moon, each one catching light like a small, polished mirror. The forest does not loom overhead. It rises with dignity, like the pillars of an ancient hall. There is space here, room to wander, room to think. Somewhere far away upon a rounded hill, a lone tower stands against the horizon. Its windows glow softly, not as a place of darkness, not as a fortress, but as a beacon of watchful calm, a quiet presence, a reminder that even in vastness, there is gentle vigilance. You begin to walk, boots brushing softly against grass that bends but does not break. The earth beneath your feet feels steady and welcoming, as though it recognizes each step. There are no tangled thorns here, no hidden dangers waiting in shadow. The path curves naturally, guided by the land itself. A faint ribbon of mist coils along the ground, parting easily as you move through it. Above, stars scatter generously across the sky, patient and unblinking. Ancient beings walk these lands, though you do not see them all at once. You sense them first, a presence like distant music carried on the wind. They are not here to conquer or command. They observe the turning of ages, the slow rotation of constellations, the quiet rise and fall of civilizations far beyond these hills. When one steps into view, their form is luminous yet gentle, outlined in soft silver light. Their eyes hold depth without severity. Their voices, when they speak, are low and melodic, like a lullaby hummed beneath breath. There is no urgency in their tone, only reassurance, only the steady acknowledgement that time flows as it always has. You follow the winding path deeper into the forest until it opens into a quiet glade. Lanterns hang from branches overhead, suspended by nearly invisible threads. They glow in soft golden arcs, their light pooling gently upon the grass. The glow does not blind, it cradles. At the center of the glade stands an old oak tree, its trunk broad and strong, roots weaving into the earth like patient fingers. Beneath its branches rests a simple stone bench, smoothed by centuries of stillness. You sit there. The stone is cool at first, then gradually warms beneath you. The oak's leaves murmur overhead, stirred by a breeze so soft it feels like a whispered secret. In the distance, wind moves through the forest canopy like poetry spoken in a language older than words. It rises and falls in waves, never sharp, never sudden. The lanterns sway slightly, their golden light shifting across your hands, across the folds of your sleeves. In this realm, time stretches gently. It does not press forward. It does not slip away. It simply exists, broad and open, like the horizon before dawn. You notice how your thoughts, once quick and restless, have begun to slow. They drift like clouds across a wide sky, unburdened and light. The stars above are patient, holding their positions without flicker or demand. The earth beneath is steady, supporting you without effort. An ancient being steps quietly to the edge of the glade. They do not interrupt your stillness. They simply stand nearby, their presence like a steady flame that neither wavers nor dims. For a moment, you feel as though you are part of something vast and continuous, another quiet observer within a long, unfolding story. Not central, not insignificant, simply present. The lone tower on the distant hill glows faintly in the background, its light unwavering. You understand now that it is not a symbol of isolation, but of watchfulness, the kind that protects without intrusion. The mist along the ground begins to thin, revealing soft clusters of wildflowers nestled among the grass. Their petals reflect lantern light in pale gold and ivory hues. You breathe in slowly. The air tastes clean and cool. You breathe out, and the lanterns seem to glow just a little warmer, as though in response. There is no rush here, no final challenge to overcome, no hidden truth to uncover. The journey itself is enough. The quiet glade, the oak tree, the steady stars, the ancient beings who walk without disturbance. All of it exists simply to remind you that calm has always been part of the world, even when forgotten. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, the realm begins to soften. The lantern light dims by degrees, like candles lowered at the end of a long and peaceful vigil. The ancient figure at the edge of the clearing inclines their head, not in farewell, but in acknowledgement. The wind slows to a hush, settling among the branches. The mist dissolves entirely, leaving only clear starlight overhead. The stone bench feels warmer now, or perhaps you have simply grown more at ease upon it. The oak tree's leaves grow still. The tower's distant glow fades to a faint ember against the horizon. As the final words of this tale drift into stillness, the world around you grows softer. The fire that once crackled in distant hearths dims in memory. The lantern light becomes a gentle afterglow behind closed eyes. The wind becomes nothing more than the rhythm of your own breathing. Sleep approaches quietly, like a trusted friend who has walked beside you all evening. It does not startle. It does not demand. It simply arrives, patient and kind. Thank you for spending this cozy Halloween night with Serene Slumber Tales. May your rest be deep, your dreams gentle, and your heart wrapped in the warm glow of autumn light. Good night, dear listener.